There are plenty of times when I try to explain some of this deeper stuff to people and they go like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that. My friend and I just talk about that all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, you remember the beginning of time? You remember thousands and thousands and thousands of existences, billions of people?" And this isn't me trying to sound big. I'm being honest. And because I'm being honest, it gets really frustrating. People are like, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean." I'm like, "You do? Then why aren't you frustrated with the world? Why aren't you standing up to it? Oh, you're just buying dead stuff and you're doing immoral stuff. You're giving your kids chemicals. You're cooperating with the system." Yeah, you completely understand what I'm talking about and you're showing it. Yeah, sure. So this isn't me trying to frustrate or piss anybody off. It's one of those things where if somebody has never been able to do a backflip and you can do a backflip and they're like, "Oh, I can do a backflip too," because you can apparently. Are you supposed to say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can"? Yeah, just because I can do something or because I've experienced something, then you definitely have from your personal space too. I personally have actually experienced the stuff I'm talking about. Does that mean that you have as well? No, it doesn't. Do you see what I'm saying? In a grand scheme of things, it's something that's in your reality that you don't know about yet. But people want to act like they understand everything because they don't want to feel stupid. I get it. But am I just supposed to be like, "Oh, okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but you're not going to help me do it and you're going to keep going about doing the immoral things that everyone else is forced to do"? Okay, that's how much you really understand what I'm saying. And why don't you act that way then? It does make a person feel kind of hopeless when they say so many things that make sense to people. And when, say, a representative for the Pepsi company comes in and I'm like, "Sorry to say, man, but we've got to stop giving this kind of crap to our community, whether or not people out there own corporations and businesses that sell it. And they've gotten everybody addicted to it so they can sell their garbage to people. We've got to become moral enough to say, like, sorry, I'm not going to keep playing along with this. I'm not going to keep doing wrong in order to make money." And when I say that to them, they get it. But then when I say it to them again, they seem to get angry and frustrated at me because it's like, "Well, things are going to change, man. Get over it. Quit saying that shit. It just brings me down." I'm like, reality brings you down? Because reality isn't that that's just the way the world is. Reality is that's the way things are until we change them. Because the world can be anything we make it together. But we are so separated that they are doing things to us that we don't want done. Someone asked me recently, "Well then, who is God?" And I asked them, "Sorry to answer your question with the question, but who isn't God?" And it's not the question of who isn't or what isn't, where, why, when. When you understand that God is the idea of everything and nothing combined with all the things that could be possible other than those, of course. Since we think everything and nothing mean all the things that are and all the things that aren't, we're stuck there. And with that idea, thinking the universe is ever expanding and maybe, just maybe because science says so, there may be curvature in space. Yet every person who looks out into space looks through a lens with an eyeball that are both somewhat curved. Big question there. But anyway, instead of trying to figure out what's out there, like I've always said, try to figure out what's in here and realize from who you are that you resonate with the world in a certain way. No matter what you want to say about it, no matter how much you understand it, that is the case. And I explain that in detail. So for someone to ask me a simple question like that, for something that's not so simple to answer, you're not going to get an answer that you like because it's going to take a lot of self-searching in order for you to find it and understand it. But I can lead you in that direction. That's what I had to answer because that's the case. I do understand exactly what I'm saying, but it's not going to be the way that you specifically want it explained because it's never going to happen that way for everybody. But the truth is the truth, regardless. God created man in his image. All right, we can use that idea many ways, but I will go along with a lot of the Bible interpreters out there, and many of them do say that the word man in the Bible means mind. Okay, well, if God created man in his image, then that means that in the imagination of the universal creator of energy, mind, which has no actual visual representation, is what God created in his imagination. So in the imagination of God, there's the image of all possibility. And in your specific representation of that, in your imagination, you're going to make up what you think the image that God gave was. Because if you really want to beat around the bush, you can spend your life trying to figure out what that means. Or you can just understand that if God made man in his image, then there's a lot of images of man and women out there that we consider men in the fashion of what we call our race or our species. If that happens to be the case, which it is, there are many different looking people, which one specific image is the one that God said man would be? All of them? Okay. Well, therefore, why are you doing anything that does wrong towards other images of God? Come on, give me an answer, would you? Because if you don't understand what I'm saying, and you think that God means you specifically, or me specifically, which that's not what it means, you're going to do nothing but cause problems based on what you believe. Not on what you know to be true, not on what you've gathered up to this point, just on what people have told you and that you've taken in and learned to accept as the truth. Unfortunately, no one has ever experienced the complete truth. And when I say that I have, I mean it, but in a way where in this reality, in this specific timeline of human existence, your details are your own, and they resonate a certain way based on where you're from, your name, and when you're born. Always. It'll never be any different, and it can't be any different. I've shown more than enough examples to show what I mean by that. But if that's not enough for you, that's because you're being difficult because you don't want to let go of what you want to believe. After a while, even if you want to believe something, you'll see that it's not true. I want to believe that every person cares about every person. Well, that's not the case. They don't. I want to believe that everybody wants to take care of the planet they live on and not destroy things. I do want to believe that, but that's not the case. So whether or not you want to believe God created man in his image, and that means that man can do whatever they want to all the other living things on the earth, then you're just contributing to the destruction of the planet you live on, and you're doing it by saying God told man that they could do that. Well, in a way, God doesn't have a preference. If God is omnipotent, like all people say, and omnipresent, and omniscient, that doesn't mean that God has a specific desire to make sure that you are pleased. That's your idea of it. Because I'm telling you right now, I don't want everything that I'm saying to be true, but if I'm talking about it, I know it. I'm not going to say stuff that I think unless someone asks me my opinion about something that they're doing or something that they are observing. Other than that, I'm not going to waste my time nitpicking with things that don't matter. We have enough people doing that all the time. And until we get ourselves straight and focus on better things in our lives that help others besides ourselves, along with ourselves, what is the point of trying to figure out what some book says or what some person told you? Use your heart and soul, gauge it properly, and learn how to do that. I can teach you how, and I offer it freely every day to everyone. Until next time, peace. As many times as I've said it, I've seen, felt, heard, been, and experienced things that are not of this world, and that's not a joke. So how does anybody expect me to act as if I'm playing or stop talking about it because this is more important than what we're doing in our everyday lives that actually is unimportant? All the chasing around after money, all the material seeking, all that kind of stuff is unimportant. Not because I say so, because obviously if you thought about it, you'd realize that you don't need those things to survive. And if you just go, well, I know I don't need them to survive, I just want them, then you're being greedy. And I'm not saying it's not okay to have some things, of course it is, but to let that stuff rule your life and to become more important than the living essence that we all share, and thinking that someone saying something such as that, the living essence that we all share, thinking that that's a weird thing to care about more than material possessions or the things that you want and desire, is very childish. And we have a lot of people who live in that childish mind, and we've got to somehow raise them up so that they don't think we're against them. We're actually trying to help them. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to deprive anybody of anything. I'm trying to help them understand what they really need to do while they're here, or else they'll still keep coming back and manifesting and reincarnating as a new person trying to chase after something that they don't even know what they're looking for. And they'll never find it until they go within. And that's what I'm trying to show people, because you don't need any material possessions in order to understand why you're here. You need to get rid of the material possessions and somehow find that peace within yourself. That's really the mission that every person comes here to do. And how each person does that is different, but it is the same mission that we're all here for. I think that what a lot of people think their awakening is a happening in mankind right now where deep empathy is opening up in a natural way, and some people are starting to catch it. Things like the big pandemic scare and all that kind of stuff really got people thinking about other people and how they feel about something that's happening. Say they lost their loved ones, they're not allowed to see anybody, they got to stay away from each other. So everyone started feeling how other people start to feel. So if you're one of those people who doesn't really have many people that you're around, or if you're somebody who does have a lot of people you're around, all of a sudden being forced not to, when that happened, started making people feel alone and forced them to think. And when they start thinking, they look around and maybe, not all of them, but some of them started feeling, now I understand what this person must feel like because I'm feeling that way too. And because each person had to take some time to themselves, it clicked for a lot of people. Now, I would have to say it didn't click for enough, but hopefully if people understand, we don't need a big tragic event to happen for people to start thinking. The world itself is going to put all kinds of situations in front of you in order to get you to think. And if you're not going to think and stop being a wild animal out there doing dumb shit in the world, then you're not going to have any permission to do anything. A lot of it is that. But a lot of it is being done in a horribly wrong way. Instead of people opening up and saying, hey, we care about you. We don't want anyone to get hurt. We're not trying to kill you off because we don't see you as pests. That's a feeling that people don't have. If our governments and our world leaders and all that crap was actually worried or cared or had any interest in the people that they are representing, then they would make sure that there's not so much pollution. They would make sure that there's not so much extra stuff going on behind the scenes that isn't so foul. And that's not the case. That goes to show you that they're just fallible people in positions that do not belong to any specific human being because no one is going to be 100% non-bias. I could say that I would be, but that would not be true. I still play a role, and I still have people that I have lifetime memories with. Not that I would treat them any better in a way where I would give them better things. It's just my opinion on their safety and my opinion on their life details is a little bit different than it would be for a complete stranger. Not that I don't value a complete stranger, but the detail would be different. Do you see what I'm saying? This empathy that I'm talking about, that some people have opened up, is a very small version of how I was saying to people that when this happened to me, it was like everything paused, time stood still, everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will happen and everything that is happening was one thing. And I understood it. And while that was happening, it was like seeing through, if there was a crowd of people, of 100 people, and seeing each person's perspective from their eyes, while the event itself or the placement itself was seeing the people. So I wasn't just feeling what other people feel. I was seeing and experiencing what everything felt. And when I go into a deep space, that's where I'm at. Trying to put that into words is all I've been trying to do since almost 7 years ago. And I know that what I'm saying is true. It's just day in, day out, there's going to be all kinds of details that are really meaningless, and people will take meaning out of them because they did them. And they didn't have to, but regardless, they did them. So they're like, oh, this is real, this is true. It's true that you went through those actions, but it's also true that you didn't need to. You got to understand there's a truth of things that have been done. There's a truth of things that have been said. There's a truth of things that have been seen and heard or thought about. But then there's an ultimate truth that very few people have ever even touched. I've been there. I am that. And I love it. But I don't know how to say it to people without sounding like I think something high of myself. I don't. I think the highest part about you because you made me this. We all sort of decide what we're going to do when we start, whether you get it or not. This was meant to happen. It was a divine thing. And even the word divine, I'm not going to go into breaking down any words, but either way, I wish people would understand that what I've been trying to say and put into words is something that is impossible because it's more than words. It's the experience of it. And sometimes you can't put experiences into words, no matter how articulate or how charismatic or how creative you are. It doesn't matter. Because some things you have to experience to understand. And what I'm hoping is that even though people aren't going to have my experience, they can understand what I'm saying is true and start putting the physical world stuff into practice so we can fix the world that most of our ancestors and even us ourselves have destroyed. That's all I want from anybody, is help cleaning up the world that we've destroyed or allowed to be destroyed. Because in a way, that's kind of doing it too by letting it happen. Either way, that's all I want from people. I want them to try to care a little more, you know? Anyway, so next time, peace. So, as I get done recording something for this food stuff video, a lady and her daughter come in. They go to the candy section. They buy every box of Krabby Patty gummy patties that we have, along with a thing of pop, more and more and more Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers and all kinds of stuff like that. The only other thing they got was a Glade plug-in, which was $8.50. And the total came out to $49. And she goes, "Kid, you're expensive." And I said, "Don't mind me asking, but wouldn't it be your decision to buy or not buy all this stuff for your daughter?" And she goes, "Yeah, but she did really good in her soccer game yesterday." And I'm like, "Okay, she did really good in her soccer game yesterday, so you're going to buy her a whole bunch of candy." And she goes, "Yeah, kids need to be rewarded." Now, I left it at that because I knew there was no point in me trying to say anything. But don't people understand that you created this problem by buying it for them or not stopping them when they started doing it and telling them why because you care about their health? This lady had quite a belly pouch herself, so she probably does a lot of the same thing. I don't blame them. I'm just trying to help them. Then the next guy comes in and buys every bag of sour warheads we have, which was 8 bags of sour warheads, and then a 18-pack of Mountain Dew. And this guy's probably 50. Come on, you know? We need people to grow up and really be adults, because I don't see much of it going on. A true healer doesn't just wave their hand over you and make everything better. They help you eliminate the things in your life that are causing you harm. They also help you understand why those things are harmful and why you would want to remove them from your life. That's a true healer. Not somebody that you just go to with your problems and they just magically make them better without you doing anything for yourself. Healing literally means to stop, heal. In order for anything to heal, you've got to stop disturbing it. You've got to stop picking at the scab. You've got to stop using it when it needs to restore. Right now, humanity needs to restore, needs to come back to some kind of way where it's balanced. And we don't have that. There are individuals who may, but on a whole, we are definitely not balanced. And when somebody can show people the truth, nobody wants to hear it, especially when there's no doubt about it. It just isn't a coincidence that all the names, all the words, all the letters, all the things in history, all the things that are going on in the present time point towards a certain thing. And luckily, yet not so luckily, they point at me. This individual that I happen to be operating through is the answer. And I'm not saying it because I want it to be that. It just happens to be that. Do you think the number 2 wants to be the answer of 1 + 1? No, it just is that. Dan Alexander happens to be the answer for humanity to truly heal and find balance. I know how that sounds to other people because, like I've said many times, I do hear what I'm saying. I completely understand what's going on here. And when you point it out to people, they'll agree, yet they won't do anything for themselves to help change it. Because it's going to take a lot more than just you changing your way of life. That's the start. Now you've got to help other people come to understand why we all need to do some changing. Not because we want to, because it's necessary for the future of our children and grandchildren and ourselves. Notice I put the kids and grandkids first because they are the future. And 99.9% of people will come back to do this again. So you will be a child again someday. You will be reborn again someday. And it doesn't have to be here on earth. I know how that sounds to most people, so I try not to go into anything like that. Because when I do, even people who think they understand ultimate reality and multiverse and all that kind of idea, they have no clue what really happens. You don't come back to a place just like this unless you didn't learn what it was for. And most people haven't at all figured out what's going on. They have the surface level, some of them. Some of them may go a little deeper, but a lot of people get stuck on whatever they're looking for. And that's because they're resonating only with their name. I resonate with the word, not just my own name. I don't go around pushing it on people. Yes, I am the truth in the word, and I extend it to all. But I'm not doing anything out of my own bounds that are going to cause me to be harmed because people need my information. I'm the only one with it. No one else is. And the people who are trying to understand what I'm talking about know that what I'm saying makes sense. It's just even too hard for them to fathom that I'm a guy who remembers infinity. Not just 1 or 2 lives, not even just 1 billion. There's no number to explain it with. But what else would I do with the rest of my life this time on Earth but try to help other people because I care? When I say things like I've done this billions of times, it's not me playing with words. It's not me trying to sound impressive. Because to be honest with you, there is no number for the infinity that I understand. With that being said, people have to try to understand that when a person has done this, it's not like I just walk around with all this right in the tip of my brain. I have to go to a point of such stillness and such quiet of the mind in order to remember a different being that I've been. And the world right now does not need another person lost in space, humming and chanting. That's not going to help the physical world. The physical world happens to actually be materially real. And the people and beings on it do really have feelings, sensations, and nerves. And that is how the universe is learning through itself. The universe does not need to experience loads and loads of pain and terror in order to have a good time and completely understand what it's like to be a living being. It's done enough of it. And because we haven't straightened ourselves out, more beings come back to do it again and to go through things that sometimes have to be increased and even harder and more painful in order to actually learn since they didn't before. I know this beyond what we call for a fact. I know it in person. I know it through first-hand experiential events. I know it in a way that no other being has. And I'm not saying it because every person has their own personal understanding of stuff. I know everybody's personal understanding. But since I'm me on an everyday basis, I don't sit there trying to feel your feelings completely. I understand them from a base level, and I don't need any more than that. If we want help in the world, we need help that's being applied now, in the present day, in the present moment, for the present beings who happen to be here. Not to sit and stew on ideas, not to sit and recite old things. People are caught in storytelling, and they're going to see gurus. And a lot of these gurus are millionaires. If you really understood, a guru would not need money. They would teach that nature provides for us. They would teach that God or creation is in all things. And the way we've regulated each other, which is a crime against our own humanity, is by creating something like money to worship in place of the self, the true being that creates. And that itself is a sin. So every person walking around talking about God, no matter if they have 1 billion followers who love them and praise them and hug them and line up to kiss their feet, and they're a millionaire, they're still sinning because God isn't about just being happy and nice to everybody. And God in no way wants to abuse and torture anybody. There's a balance. Your abuse and torture should only be your daily ins and outs of struggle, your daily ins and outs of having to do work in order to provide for yourself, but in a way where nature is involved, not human greed. And I know this beyond a doubt. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to give you any kind of evidence. I'm telling you the truth, and I have no questions because I know I've already done it. And no one is ever going to tell me I haven't. They're just going to keep telling themselves they haven't because they don't want to believe that they've been misled. I get it, but the case is still the case, and I happen to be the one. I'm not sorry. I'm just sorry that people don't want to hear it because they don't want to be better. These are the kind of things that get frustrating because they're very unimportant and people actually get mad about them. We have a digital coupon for Coca-Cola. Buy 3 for $13. Okay, but the lady couldn't find the digital coupon on her phone, so therefore the site didn't have it on her phone. I don't know. I don't control the Dollar General coupon digital site, you know? And she comes in and she goes, well, this isn't coming off. I can't find it in here. I'm like, I'm sorry. Well, you have a sign up that says the digital coupon's 3 for $13. I'm like, well, that's what we were told to put out. Yeah. Well, it's not on the site. I don't know what you want me to do about that. I'm trying to be as kind as I can about it. I don't know what you want me to do about it. And because it's a vendor, I can't price change it or else I could get in trouble over it. Silly as it is, it means nothing. It's meaningless, but I could get in trouble for it, quote unquote, trouble, you know? And this lady was scrolling through her phone trying to prove to me that it's on there, that she can't find it. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, I just went over and took the signs down. I don't know what you want me to do. the person that was with her, they left and they came back there after groveling a little bit. They actually were outside. They came back in the building and the lady grabbed our ad and showed us in the ad. It's in the ad, see? I'm like, I see that it's in the ad. And in the ad, it says digital coupon. So that would mean you'd have to get it on your digital thing to use. If the site doesn't have that coupon, I can't do anything about it. I'm not a barcode. I can't magically make a barcode appear so I can scan it and give you the discount without physically going in and changing it and manipulating it, which they see and they would get mad at me for because it's a vendor product. What do you want me to do? I explained it in detail why I can't do it, and they're still like, well, that's false advertisement. You could get in trouble for that false advertisement. And I'm like, I just wish people would think deeper. These are both probably really kind ladies, but because they didn't get their Diet Coke, their freaking pop, they were angry. And they're both very big, square-shaped ladies who are getting a bunch of pop. And I said to them, I wish people would just look a little deeper and realize that you don't need pop in the first place. So you would have saved all this money if you just didn't buy this garbage. And I said that because it was getting to the point where I was getting frustrated. And I was like, this is nothing against you. It's just you're getting mad at me, a person who's standing here at a place I don't want to be, selling you shit that I don't want you to have because I care more about you than you. What do you want me to do? Act like, oh, I'm so sorry you didn't save money on your sludge. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not. I'm sorry you're not awake enough and you don't care about yourself enough to be more proper to yourself. That's where it comes into just let people be what they want to be. Yeah, well, they're destroying the world around me because they're destroying themselves, and that's leaking into society. Do you not see it? If you don't want to open your eyes, then I'm sorry, you're hurting yourself and the world around you by not growing up. What I'm teaching is so important that it has to happen or we die. Seriously, it ends up like that. That's how I know it's to be, and I have seen it already. Do you see why I get worked up? When I explain to people the stuff that I'm saying is true, I talk about things and then they happen right after. That's why I won't explain what I've seen to you in detail, because it could still be changed. Do you understand what it's like to wield a quote-unquote power like that? It's scary to most people. To me, it's real. That's why I don't talk about it. I know how to handle it. But that doesn't mean that other people aren't going to get mad at me thinking like, oh, he's just saying some bullshit. He's just talking some shit. Who is he to tell me not to do this to myself? Who is he to say? Well, I'm somebody who cares about you. That's what I am. And I'm sorry you don't. And I'm sorry that you have this whole idea that you got to know somebody because strangers are bad. Every stranger is a horrible person. Well, everyone's a stranger until you get to know them. So everybody's a horrible person? So don't get to know anybody? Come on, man. This is like, what the fuck? It gets so frustrating. And no one's ever going to understand it until they actually have an experience of some magnitude that brings them into their heart. And I can't make you do that, but I can offer to teach you how you can do it for yourself.